Hello and welcome to this overview tutorial, and today we're going to look at a Rotel, and the model number is RCD-02, and this is a CD player. In terms of general specifications, total harmonic distortion comes in at 0.0045% at 1 kHz, and intermodulation distortion is the same. Frequency response is 20 Hz to 20 kHz, plus or minus 0.5 dB. The D to A converter is 18-bit, and output impedance is 100 ohms, and the digital output peak to peak is 0.5 volts, and load impedance is 75 ohms. In terms of dimensions, the height is 73, width 435, and depth 313 millimeters. And the CD player weighs approximately 5 kilograms. When the unit was supplied new, it would also have been provided with a remote control. So if we take a look from the top, on the left hand side, this is where you have your on-off power switch, and there is a cover to prevent accidental electrocution. Behind that again, with a cover, is the power transformer, and then the circuit board towards the rear just has an EMC type filter on there, and then you can see the main CD mechanism, and then to the right the microcontroller. At the rear you also have a circuit board, which is towards the upper part. That is the trigger input board, and we've spoken about that on many Rotel devices, where you can have an external voltage signal coming in and then have a master control to turn multiple devices on or off. But what was the issue with this unit when it came in? Well, it was operating correctly, but it's more of a preventative measure. Again, what we can see around the large electrolytic smoothing capacitors and also some of the smaller electrolytics is this brown glue. To remove the brown glue is critically important because we've covered this many times. Thankfully in this case this brown glue hadn't already dried out, so this corrosive and conductive effect really hadn't come in. But we know historically if that glue does dry out, it will cause damage to the circuit board, and also as well it will cause premature failure of the components. And then if the brown glue is connecting to maybe links or other component leads, then that means that current will pass into areas of the circuit that it should not, and again can lead to failures, or in some cases unusual operation. And then here, if we look a little bit more closer, you can see the blue electrolytic capacitor with the small power resistor, and this was coating the ends of the power resistor and then some of the other smaller resistors. So here, if we take a top view, you can see the glue around the electrolytics, and this is a multi-layered circuit board as well, so the last thing you want is for that glue to start eating its way through the circuit board. And then on the left hand side you have this voltage regulator, and you can see the electrolytic smoothing capacitor here, and again some of these links have been coated, and also some of the ends of the rectification diodes. In this case you could maybe use some form of heat source like a heat gun, but for myself I just use flux remover, which has a solvent within it, and it softens up the glue, and then I'm able then just to peel it away. But it's not a straightforward task. It's probably going to take about an hour to do that work. But once that's done, you can rest assured then that you're not going to have any future issues. And then while the unit is in for service and the removal of the glue, what I'm showing you here is the main CD mechanism. It's very important just to check all of these nylon gears. Sometimes these nylon gears can become brittle and sometimes can crack, or maybe some of the teeth break away. You can also see as well the laser is exposed, and again take the opportunity just to clean that laser. And then here, if we take a side view, you can see that the CD is inserted and this unit is currently under test. And I do like this CD player. As with many Rotel devices, it's extremely well laid out, and apart from the brown glue, you don't get power components sitting right next to capacitors or anything like that, so it's nice to see. And then, as we mentioned earlier, this is the transformer, and this is the familiar shroud that they put around it. And as I also mentioned as well, that's where you have this EMC type filter, just to prevent really any electrical noise entering into the CD player. And then here we just leave the unit on extended tests. So this is a case where you're just running multiple tests just to make sure that you've got good operation and the CD player performed faultlessly. Part of the service was also to remove the front bezel. what you'll find is that there's quite a heavy layer of dust which forms over the vacuum fluorescent display, which you can see here on the right hand side, and also the lens filter, which of course is part of the front bezel. So again, you can clean that. What I will point out as well, there is a Japanese company called Futaba, and they are probably the #1 manufacturer of these fluorescent displays. For people who own any type of device of this era which uses these types of displays, you'll actually find that over time the display segments become dim. And the reason for that is you just get oxidization which forms, which reduces the overall brightness. You could maybe attempt, and I've seen this done before, where you try and rejuvenate the vacuum fluorescent display by applying a higher voltage across onto the grid lines. Maybe you might be lucky and then you get it, but you could maybe over apply the voltage stroke current, which could then result in the display failing completely. And as they're not available as a spare part, you would also question whether or not you wanted to take that risk. So this being rather a short overview, but that sort of brings us to the end. And if you have any questions or you need any further information, then send an email to audioamplifierservicing@aol.com, and I'll be more than happy to come back to you and provide any information you require. So until the next time, I wish you all the very best. Cheers and bye-bye.